Well, first of all, thanks for choosing this session, not Asia Pacific panel. It really, makes me feel nice. So reliability engineering practices. But mostly we'll talk about platform and reliability today. So I believe that these are all the important things that we need to. We're doing at Mambu. These are how we run, how we release, and how we respond to incidents. And this is what reliability is about, and this is what is the platform teams that we have. Because the goal of platform is to remove the complexity from development teams for the repetitive tasks that they are doing, so they can focus on delivering business value. And the platform teams, they need to provide tools for development teams so they can do their job. They're not expected to do a job for the development teams because developers have the ownership. You build it, you test it, you run it. But then to provide all these tools and to facilitate, this is what platform and reliability is about. So let's go further. Okay. So it's about me, everything at the same time. So I spent my whole career in IT operations, and I started in an internet service provider, and there I learned everything about internet. Then I worked in Estonia for Müller-Maersk, and we were building in a shipbuilding plant, and we were building huge container vessels. So I've been on these enormous ships, and I've seen them before. They ended up in every Docker presentation in tents. Then I moved back to Ukraine to work for a company called Levi9. We were doing software development outsourcing, and I spent 9 years there. So 5 last years I have been living in the Netherlands, almost 1 year at Mambu. And like it says, I love running, and it's almost within 2 hours half marathon. Like, why marathon? Why running? So I love this analogy. And I've heard this a lot from engineers last year, that before you start running, you need to learn how to walk. And this is a nice analogy for the work we were doing this year, because we put really the foundations for to facilitate all these achievements that Ben was talking earlier today, Ciprian then was talking before me. Because in order to achieve all of those, you can be either out like these people with a bucket list. I need to run a marathon, and you do it once and then you forget about this. Continuous delivery. We've done it once, good. It's done. Whatever happens afterward, nobody cares. We want to live by these principles. And this requires hard daily work. But only by making these daily choices, you can create this virtuous circle of improvements. By when every improvement, small, they compound after all and provide something big at the end of the year. And today I'm going to talk about these things, where we were, what we have done through the last year, and what we're going to do in the future. So first of all, start with the infrastructure. So what happened before? So we had a team called CloudOps that was responsible for running our monolithic application. We had also a team that was created specifically to organize all the processes and architecture to run microservices. It was called Platform Team, and they were completely separated from each other. This summer, we put finally platform into production, and we thought, well, this is about the time that we reorganize how we work, because we don't want people to be responsible for separate parts of Mambu. So we gave engineers a chance to choose either responsibility for infrastructure, for all infrastructure at Mambu, or to take responsibility for all releases at Mambu. And we split these teams into 2 based on the functional domain. So we are calling them SREs, Service Reliability Engineers. What it is about is that, so these quotes I found on internet, and they were selected not because they're random quotes, but actually because our engineers live by those, and it makes me really, really proud. I'm not going to read all of them. Well, you can do it yourself, and you're probably already doing this. But what's the most important part is that we are addressing the operational problems with the idea of automation and coding in mind. Because we're reaching a huge scale at Mambu. We are getting more and more environments, more and more customers, and we just need to be able to solve these problems that we're facing programmatically. So this is how the current SRE infrastructure team looks like. We have most people in Yash, where our engineering center is. We have people in Amsterdam, in Singapore. I think tomorrow the first person in Miami starts. Finally, yeah, it took quite some effort, but makes me happy. And I will talk more about this why I'm in Miami in a moment. So these are the things, some interesting statistics. So when I started, I think we had even less environments than 22, but somehow 22 is something I memorized. And right now, no, it's even outdated. It was at the beginning of September, we had 82 environments. Right now, I think we have already closer to 90, and I think by the end of the year it will be 100. And so this is a 4 times growth within 1 year, and this is enormous. And also because this is also on a slide already. So it took us, when I started, 4 weeks to provision 1 environment. Now it takes us 4 hours. So through the whole year, we automated this full, and this includes also the platform and everything. The idea of those environments is that the number looks big, and it is big, and it will become even bigger. At least if I talk to sales, they tell me, well, be prepared. It will happen. Yeah. So we don't differentiate between multi-tenant and dedicated environments. Well, we do, of course, but from environment configuration perspective, they're identical. They're just the same. We run the same Mambu in the same way, and many dedicated environments have multiple tenants that are used for customer-specific purposes. It might be businesses in different countries, or it might be different purposes for environments like pre-production or performance environments. But all of them are identical for us. We don't differentiate between those at all. And also with this figure, it might look nice or not nice, but we will reduce it even more. First of all, environments are huge and require a lot of services, so it takes quite some time. But we also have some of the third-party services that we use, like alerting and monitoring. They still require some manual work, and we will automate it in the future. So this is important for us because you see we're going and growing fast to automate all our environments. And we have chosen Terraform as a tool to do it, and it works really, really great for us. So we covered already, and we manage automatically all development and stage environments. We have covered around 1/3 of production and sandbox environments, mostly environments that we provisioned during last 3-4 months. All the rest of environments, we will have some fun with them. We will need to either completely recreate them or import them. We will see how to deal with this. But this is something that we have to do because we have to manage those environments in code, and we have to manage those automatically. Because we're making just plenty of changes. Here it says that we're making around 30 changes a month. And some of them are just for one environment, some of them are for the whole Mambu. And if we are making manual change for 100 environments, it can take just a week. We don't want to do it. And second, it creates a problem because, well, humans, they do error, they do mistakes. It's easy just when you're doing repetitive work over and over again, it's easy to miss something. If it's automated, it's easier to catch those mistakes because you can test them and you can store it in code. And also this helps us with the change management because every change we're doing and then is stored in code, and we can easily show the whole history of what happened with every environment. Going further, what we're going to do. So I will give you a moment to get familiarized. But most importantly here is that, we'll have many more environments, and we need to get support for that. For those environments, we have chosen a technology called Kubernetes, and this is where we want to standardize. We have standardized already because all the microservices capabilities are on Kubernetes. The next year, we will also move monolith to Kubernetes. And well, maybe I need to take a remark here. When I'm talking about monolith, I'm not talking about something that was described as bad early today in the stage. Because, well, I'm an engineer, so for me, monolith is just the way we organize code and we deploy code. More monolith can be bad if it is tightly coupled architecture and any change requires reconfiguration, everything, or it can be loosely coupled architecture, the thing we have at Mambu. It's just the way we deploy our code. Some customers, some companies, like Facebook, for example, they have monolithic application and they can scale and do a lot of stuff. They have a cookie cutter approach to deploy here. So when I'm talking about monolith, I'm not meaning something bad. I mean just technological choice how we organize code. So we will move it to Kubernetes as well. Either we will split it or we will move it as is. We will see. It will be work coordinated together with developers. By doing this, we will enable the multi-cloud that we have been discussing today in the morning and in the afternoon as well. Because by choosing Kubernetes and standardizing on this, we can use the services that are provided by Microsoft, by Google, by AWS to run our containers. And this will make the whole transition easier. With this as well, we will have an improvement of disaster recovery. We have quite a good, robust disaster recovery process, but with the growing number of environments, we need to do more and we need to automate more. But most importantly is, again, the thing that was mentioned, that we need to do cross-cloud disaster recovery. And those are the things we don't have yet, but these are the things that are in the roadmap for 2020 for us. And this is everything we will do in 2020. There is nothing else on our roadmap. And I believe even this is quite ambitious, but well, we will manage. Now let's talk about incident response, because okay, we're running all this infrastructure, we're running all the things, and of course, this is something that we don't want to happen, but well, it happens. We are building a complex distributed system and incidents just happen. And our goals for incidents is to be able to identify them as quick as possible, respond to them, and solve the issue. How we're doing this? Okay, now, also I will give you a moment to have a look at this. So we're using some tools. First of all, it's Opgenie and Blameless. With Opgenie, it is our main source of truth, where we configure how and who receives alerts. We have all the configuration for every team that is on call, and all the escalations and all the rules, whether you receive it as a call, as an SMS, as a push message in an app, whatever, or maybe an email if somebody still reads emails and has notifications for them, okay, can happen as well. We use Blameless, and we have chosen this tool to facilitate our incident response and postmortems. How it happens is that whenever we are responding to incident, we create a Slack channel, and this is whoever in an organization wants to understand what's happening with this incident, they go and join that Slack channel, and they can see what's happening there. They have statistics, they have all the information that is important for that incident, and we can analyze that later with the postmortem that I will cover in a moment. We've changed the way we react to incidents. This is called Three Amigos here. Well, it's what engineers decided to call it because they thought it was funny, and I find it also nice. So we are talking about almost always that we are including 3 people in every incident. This is an SRE that normally responds first to the incident, or tech support that can also respond first to the incident, to an incident, and the Guardian. So we believe that together they are capable of identifying the issue and solving it much faster than people on their own. So this is our whole philosophy about incident response, to make people available, people with knowledge to identify the issue and solve it. Because if you don't have a knowledge, you can just try, okay, let's try this. Oh, it's not working. Let's try that. Also not working. It leaves you guessing instead of knowing, okay, this is most common or this is most probable source of the issue, and trying to find solution. People in groups are much smarter and are capable of identifying it. Finally, well, a bit of statistics here. So you saw the goal of having, of course, 1 incident a quarter. We're not there yet. We're having, last 3 months, we had around 10 incidents, but we still have too many alerts. I believe too many. We had even more before. But we are constantly working on reducing them. So we believe that alerts, every alert you receive should be actionable. And if you're not taking any action for alerts, it's a wasted time and energy, and especially it creates notification fatigue. We're not there yet, but we are getting there. A bit of the metrics. So what we find important here. So we still measure this manually, and this graph is the result of this. I will talk it through in a moment. But the most important metrics for us, and probably the most important metric, is MTTD, time it takes for us to detect an issue. Historically, it has been, well, infinity, because we had our customers calling us, look, we have an issue here. So we did not detect it. We're improving a lot here with the monitoring and observability tools that we're introducing, but we will start measuring it, because ideally we should be able to identify it as soon as it happens, or even earlier, before it starts happening. And this is our goal here. MTTR, how soon we can recover from the issue. And this is something MTBF is time between failures. I was sure that this is a wrong metric. It's metric from the old world, because we're building, again, complex distributed systems that will have failures all the time. My colleagues convinced me that no, it is the right metric to have, because we're talking about not general failures here, but customer-facing failures. And we are watching them as well. So this graph might look scary, because it has hours here, and there are a lot. But again, we are starting to assemble this information, and in most cases, first of all, here is not the whole Mambu that's affected. It's one particular customer or tenant in one particular API call, and we're talking about the total time it took us to resolve the issue, not to create a workaround, but to create a particular fix, because this is what we believe it should be counted. If we just restart and the issue appears in one day, it's not a solution. We need to produce the long-term fix. Again, we will work to improve it even further. The future of what is happening. So our mindset here is that we need to have a rapid response, and we need to have a clear feedback to our customers what is happening. We've been sometimes not the best here, with customers having to call us to understand what's happening. We are working hard to implement a new incident response process, where we will proactively contact customers and explain to them the current situation while we are responding to incidents. So for that, first of all, we will implement the idea of follow the sun. Cyprian touched it in his presentation. How it will work is that we have basically 3 locations in the world. We have Europe, Yash and Amsterdam. We have Singapore. We have Miami. For that, we need to have at least 4 to 6 people in each location, because, well, on calls, you cannot have as one engineer on call, because you're always on call. Not fun to have. If you're 2 engineers, well, half of the month you're on call. Not fun situation to be in. So we will expand and find more people there. And we always want to have, at any point in time, 3 engineers that are available to respond to an incident. First responder is always an engineer for whom it is the daytime, because, well, this is how it should be. If they don't respond or don't acknowledge the incident, then immediately afterwards, the second responder is triggered. It's a person for whom it is evening. Like if we say, for example, that, let's say, Miami should be the first responder, it's daytime, they don't respond, then it goes immediately to Yash, because there it is evening, or to Amsterdam. If they don't respond, we have to wake up a person in the middle of the night, in Singapore in this case, the third responder, because, well, somebody needs to take care of a priority 1 incident. If even they don't respond, we wake up engineering manager of infrastructure team, because, well, come on, somebody needs to take care of this. So this is what we're going to do, and they will have to go through the incident. At the same time, with our philosophy that we need to make the right people available for the solution of the incident, there is an escalation of through the management leadership. So if an incident is not responded, is not solved through some amount of time, we're thinking about 15, maybe 20 minutes, maybe more, we're still discovering. It goes further to system owners or to engineering managers. Then it goes to the champion, like me, for example, or it goes to VP of engineering, Cyprian. So then it goes to Ben, CTO, and then even the incident, if it still is unresolved, it goes to our CEO, COO. So it goes higher through the company. First of all, for people to be aware that this is happening, because, well, it should not be something that is hidden. We have an incident. If it takes us time to solve it, everyone should be aware in the company. But also to provide incentive to engineers to never get through this escalation, because it's something that's not good to call CTO in the middle of the night, because, well, we cannot respond to the incident. Okay, further, postmortems. So it is something that became part of our culture, and I'm really proud of this. So when I joined Mambu, there was already a good postmortem culture. We also improved it through this year. So for every priority one incident, we are doing a postmortem. We are also introducing lighter postmortems for anything that requires investigation by engineers, any service interruptions. We are doing, of course, timeline. We're doing 5 whys to identify root causes. In a lot of cases, there is not one root cause, what we found out. So we are doing 5 whys several times to identify several root causes. And based on those root causes, we identify follow-up actions, something that we need to improve to not have the same incident repeated again. We share postmortems with you, either as a summary. This is what happened, and this is what we have done about this. This is what we're going to do about this. But also we started sharing whole postmortem, detailed discussion with affected customers. First of all, it increases trust and transparency with what happened, what we're doing about this, what was the source of the issue. But second, it gives also you the tool to keep us to our promise to implement follow-up actions. So look, if they were stated in a postmortem and half a year later, the follow-up actions that we identify we need to do, if they're not implemented, well, what's with our reputation? So you are helping us to improve the company. We have our own process of tracking follow-up actions, and we are constantly improving it. But it's always nice to have a pressure from the customer, because this kind of helps us. Yes, let's do it. And yeah, it was said a couple of times in calls with customer, it was said today, some people think that release is a major source of incidents. And well, sometimes they're right. But we believe that, yeah, by reducing the size of the change, we're reducing the impact. So what we're doing with releases. First of all, we are here. So, yeah, most important thing here is that we had major minor release in the past. We abandoned it. We've done only minor releases this year. We've done more than 30 feature releases, and I think around 20-something bug fix releases till beginning of September. But we're abandoning the scheme to the scheme that is called patch, feature, break and change. I will explain it in a moment. We do also 3 Amigos for releases. Actually, this is where 3 Amigos started. It's not for incident. Yes, this is where the name came from. So it was always an SRE. It was also a tech support person and developer. We had a process improvement group, developers on rotation who were doing releases. So they were creating a 3 Amigos group to facilitate release, and also if we have any incidents, to make a decision to roll back or to fix it, to identify what to do. Now we are aiming to pass the responsibility of execution of releases from infrastructure team to release team. This is why we created a team in the first place. But this is something that will happen by the end of the year or beginning next year. We have fully automated releases for microservices, and they are done 5-10 times a day, as soon as they are needed. For monolith is still a bit of work that is required, a bit of manual work. I will show it in a moment. But right now, through the improvements that we made, it takes us now 2-3 days. end-to-end to make a release. And this is a huge improvement from the team. But maybe most important, I want to reiterate this, so we want to treat any release-related incident as priority one. I've discussed it with the support and delivery team we have, but I'm telling you this, if you think that there is an incident that was introduced by release, don't hesitate to notify it as P1. We are committed to make releases that don't break stuff to you. And if we still do it, please let us solve it with the highest priority. Because we are talking about idea that's the vision of invisible releases. And invisible releases is something that is invisible both internally but externally. Internally, it should not be any effort for developers to release their code. But externally, these releases should be noticeable by you. You should like, oh, how many times did you release last month? Well, this amount of time. Well, we never notice it. This is our ideal situation, and this is our vision where we're heading. We call it invisible releases. No performance degradation, no regressions, nothing. So now about new release scheme. It's patch feature breaking change. So with the patch, we will just release it as soon as it is ready. Just, it is there, it goes to all environments. So you should not be affected, you shouldn't even notice that we are doing this, besides that increasing the count at the last digit. We will do feature releases, something that we were doing as minors now, but we'll do many of them. These are the new features, any changes that don't require you to change anything in your application. They just provide new piece of the functionality, but to keep your current functionality running, you don't have to make any change. We expect them to also happen quite frequently. Now, something that is scary, but will happen infrequently and shouldn't be scary. This is something that is called break-in change releases. But so before in the major release, we gave you like a strict amount of time. I think it was 2 weeks. That within these 2 weeks here is you must adapt your application. Now we deployed this change to sandbox, so you can test it, and then we deployed it to production. Now we are going to do it differently. We don't know when it's going to happen, but we're sure it's going to happen. And we're committing to have at least 3 months of compatibility period in which we will run both versions of API in this case, the old API and the new API. And you can take time at your own pace to adjust your application. You can do it within 1 day, within 2 weeks. You can do it within 2 months and 28 days, whenever you want. But both versions of applications will be running at the same time. And then once all the customers have moved to the new API, we will discontinue the old API. It gives you control and confidence that you don't have to do it in a rush. We're committing to at least 3 months. Whenever first change comes, we will see, depending on how complex the change. If it's a simple API change, it will be 3 months. If it's a huge change, we might do it half a year or 1 year. We will discuss it with you when it happens the first time. Going further, so this is how our pipeline looks like. I will not walk you through it. No. I want to show it to you to explain how it is used, because this is actually a value stream map. And when the team was created, this was the first thing the team introduced. It shows every stage we need to take to release our application. It shows exact amount of time it takes for each stage. It shows exact amount of time it takes to wait between stages. So we know the bottlenecks here. Well, what do you guess the bottleneck is? Testing. Yeah, but we are also using this tool to make improvements. Because whenever we make improvements, we are sitting and saying, okay, we are thinking that we need to have an improvement here to reduce it something from 3 hours to 2 hours. But we are doing these exact changes to an exact place in this process. Or we can say, let's completely remove these 3 steps and replace them with 1 step. But we're using value stream mapping to constantly and continuously improve our process. This is how it looks like for microservices. We're using an idea of GitOps. I'm not going to tell you about this either. because we are having, first of all, we will put a good description in a blog post. It was created by an engineer, an SRE Daniel, so we will put it soon. We have also have a description quite in details how it is working by a system owner of release team, Liviu. He delivered this talk in, I think, 1 month ago on Kubernetes Community Days in Amsterdam, so they will explain it much better than me, but what I can say is that this is state-of-the-art deployment capability for our microservices. A bit about the future, what we are going to work on. So the most important part is this one. Because once we, and we have done this already in the, our internal hackathon called Ship It. We have done a proof of concept of how we can do the feature toggling. And the main idea is that because it will enable us everything else. The idea behind the feature toggling is that we just deploy code as soon as it is ready, but it's never executed. So for you, nothing is changing. But then we can, through canary releases or through some worldwide rollout processes, we can enable features either to all customers, to specific customers, within 10 minutes, at night, on the weekend. We can select and do it in just completely independent of deployment. And this reduces the pressure of having releases all the time. And if something goes wrong, and through Canary we identify that the things are wrong, it's easy to do it back. We don't need to even roll back anything. We just swap the flag back, and functionality is gone, the problem is gone, we fix it, we deploy it again. When we're ready to enable it again, we enable it again. And this is the most important part that we are going to work in 2020 to facilitate all the rest. But as we will move the monolith also to Kubernetes, we will unify the release process. Because, well, we don't need to have 2 different release processes for monolith and for microservices. We want to have one same release process, and this is what we're going to work on. Well, thanks. So, finally, something that haven't mentioned yet about observability. And this is the team we don't have yet. This is the team that we will just create. So we started working with monitoring tools and invest in monitoring tools, I think somewhere around May, because there were complaints by our customers. We've got some advice what to do. We wanted to introduce more visibility. So we started working with these development teams, started doing this. But as we found out, it's not really sustainable if development teams are doing this as a side project. So we decided to organize a team that will be fully dedicated to improve observability of our applications. So that to help development teams and to give them tools in their hands to identify what is happening with the applications, how they are performing, and what they need to do to improve applications and how they're running in production. So this is the team that will be soon organized. But most important part here and why we want to do it is to facilitate this, what is called API performance made visible. We have now this graph, average response time for top 10 API calls. Nice. Doesn't tell a lot. We want to produce you 3 metrics per API endpoint. We want to give you detailed visibility about how much time it takes to respond to API calls, so duration or latency, error rate, how many 500s we return through those API calls, and at what throughput does it happen in the number of requests per second. And we will show it per API endpoint. And this is, of course, the foundation to change the SLAs we are doing in the future. Right now, SLAs are based on availability. But we are the backend company. We are selling you APIs. So we want to have SLAs based on APIs. We need to do a lot of work to get there, but we're making step by step, and we will get there in 2020. Well, a bit of statistics. We're growing quite substantially, so 55% growth year over year. So it says 2x November, I don't know why, but it's basically November last year. And here it is 1 month, it's from mid-August to mid-September. We are growing quite fast. Now, I think this brings us to the end of this. So I will not talk again what I've covered this, but I want to mention this. So I hope I touched some of the something in your heart and your brain with this presentation. Is it good or bad? It's up to you. If you think, oh, it's a nice idea, I want to learn more about this. Or what the hell are you doing? No, it shouldn't work like this. Or, and why don't you do that? please just contact me. I'm really interested in hearing from you. Anything that you think you want to share, you want to ask, you want to provide concerns about the way we run Mambu, we deploy Mambu, we monitor Mambu, or we respond to incident. Of course, if it is a support request or incident, you can call me, but I will not be able to help you. So think carefully why you use this. But if you are there to talk to me and to have a discussion about the way we are doing reliability and we are doing cloud operations at Mambu, please don't hesitate to contact me. So thanks for having me. Now it's time for your questions. Thank you.